Shalom and welcome, everyone. My name is Hila Aran, and I am a pre-Aliyah employment advisor here at Nefesh. I'm happy to have you here today with me. We're going to be spending the next hour or so discussing employment planning in Israel for long-term planners. That means that 6+ months from the Aliyah date. What we're going to do today is we're going to cover various topics on the issue. I would suggest to maybe bring a notebook, a pad of paper, open up a blank document in your computer so that you can take notes. If you want to grab a cup of tea, coffee, feel free. Okay, so we are going to dive right into it. First of all, I want to wish you a Mazal Tov on your Aliyah. If you are watching this video, that is, because you have the idea of maybe making Aliyah, maybe you're still contemplating with it, maybe you're sure that you want to come next year, maybe you're 8 months out, whatever it is, I want to acknowledge your decision to make Aliyah, and furthermore, to acknowledge the decision to be here today and to really take the time out of your busy life to really explore employment for Aliyah. So when we talk about Aliyah, sometimes there's a bunch of thoughts and questions that come to mind. Like, Israel is really expensive. I'm not 100% sure I want to make Aliyah. When do I apply for a job here in Israel? We're going to address some of these today. We can't address all of them, but we're going to answer a few of them and hopefully give you information so that you can continue to write down your thoughts and questions and address this in the future. We're going to talk briefly about the employment timeline. And this is really from the idea or thought about making Aliyah all the way to be ready to apply for a job in Israel. I put this in 3 different pieces because there's different aspects that I think that everybody should be visiting when thinking about employment in Israel. Some of them are long-term, some of them are maybe more short-term, and some of them are really immediate actions that you can take to finding employment in Israel. So the first one that we're going to focus on is the long-term employment planning. This really has to do with networking, with market research, Hebrew learning, studies and skills, those aspects. And then we have the short-term employment planning, which is for anybody who's really within 6 months of planning Aliyah. This is going to be the time to really polish and compose resumes. It's going to be the time to do a job market identification, extensive networking, and also work on budget. And then there's also the immediate employment search that is going to cover more of the resume submission, the interview process, and really getting to know common practices here in Israel to be ready to apply for jobs, interview, and hopefully start working. Today, what we're going to cover are career goals, market research, networking, studies and skills, and also Hebrew learning. If you did identify a couple of aspects that I mentioned before that were maybe more suitable for a different timeline, I encourage you to go ahead and visit one of the other videos that we have on our YouTube channel to learn more about those aspects. All right, so we're going to dive into career goals. So when making Aliyah, we have to really look at our short-term goals and our long-term goals. Sometimes we have something that we're doing in North America right now, but we realize that when we make Aliyah, we might have to take a step backwards in order to move forward with that, and that's okay. So we do have to look at maybe a first job in Israel, what we're looking to do down the line, and what it is that we're willing to do initially for work. Sometimes we also have to upskill, work on reskilling, and all of those we're going to address in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about market research. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do to really research your field in Israel. First of them is really taking a look at the news, whether it's the Marker, Globes, or Kalkalist, are all websites of newspapers that you can really follow to understand different trends in your field here in Israel. There's also the job boards that we're going to discuss in much more detail shortly, but you can also research a field through a job board, looking at the NBN job board, looking at the Doshim, and also Glassdoor, which are really a couple of initial job boards that you can look at, but there's also a lot more. And then there's also different research that can be done by understanding of different certifications that you might need, or understanding the differences in the field here in Israel versus the US or Canada, It's really also important to understand what you bring with you and also what challenges you might have in your field, etc. One thing that we're going to touch on is really understanding if you are in the medical licensing field or maybe other professions, you might have different degrees that you need to have recognized or different certifications that you have to bring over, and we're going to talk more about that process. One way that you can also learn about the market is really using the Nefesh B'Nefesh Professions Index that we have on our website. We basically have different categories of professions in Israel. You can go into the website. If you're in accounting, you can search for accounting. You can learn about the accounting field. Sometimes there's also an interview with somebody who works in the field in Israel and really get a gist of the information here. You can also feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to put you in touch with more contacts in the field if we have them, and also provide you with additional resources. So the Nefesh B'Nefesh Professions Index is also a great way to get an idea of the fields in Israel. Okay, let's talk about networking, because networking is a crucial tool to get to know your field in Israel and also to find that job when the time comes. Ever since the term social media came to life, really networking has been increasingly become an important role of the finding of the employment process here in Israel, and can really be a great tool if you know how to use it correctly. So when you think about networking, it's really important to understand why you might be networking now that you're 6+ months from Aliyah. It's important to network now because you are able to use that network that you're going to set up now in the future. If you're just making Aliyah, or if you're very close to making Aliyah, and then you start reaching out to people, you're not really going to feel comfortable asking them questions maybe, or favors, or connecting with them on a deeper level if you didn't establish some sort of a relationship with them previously. What does networking mean? So networking really means talking to anybody. It could be anybody, just putting yourself out there. It can be friends, it could be family, colleagues, people that you just, meet at shul, JCC, wherever. You could just share with them the idea of what it is that you're looking for, what field you're in, and really connecting with them. You never know when a good connection is going to pop out. So it's always worthwhile to just put yourself out there and get to know as many people as possible. Some good networking questions, we can always address that down the line in more depth, but it's always good to just initiate a conversation and remember that people are happy to share from their information, especially here in Israel. People want to hear if you're interested, legitimately interested in what they're doing and how they got the job and what they're looking forward to in maybe 5 years in their field or in their company. They would be very, very happy to share, and they would feel that you're really caring. And that could be a really good way to engage with people. Where should you be networking? Everywhere, like we said. Social media apps. So social media and applications are also a great way to find a job today. And not only that, but also to explore your field in Israel. There are lots of different social media and applications, but today we're really going to focus on 2 of them. We're going to talk about LinkedIn and we're going to talk about Facebook, because they're both huge tools in the employment arena. LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is widely used in Israel by many people. LinkedIn can be used in English, and also some people might prefer to have a profile in Hebrew and actually share content in Hebrew. It just depends on the field and depends on who you're reaching out to. It could be a very very powerful tool. If you are on LinkedIn right now, but you're not actively looking at posts, engaging, and putting out content, I would encourage you to explore LinkedIn a little more at this time. Also, this is a great time to go ahead and buffer up your profile. Make sure that everything is up to date. Make sure that you have a good picture out there. Make sure that really everything is kind of lined up for when you really are able to share that profile with the world. And making sure that you have all the information that you really want people to see really available for them to see. If you haven't really used LinkedIn, or maybe you have, but you haven't really practiced looking for people overseas, this is an example of how you can use LinkedIn to find people in Israel, to connect with them, long-term planning from your Aliyah. So first of all, let's say you're in the marketing field, okay? You can go ahead and you can put in a marketing director. When you put in marketing director, you can then go ahead and filter for people. And in location, you can filter by location in Israel. And you would actually see a bunch of people that pop up in the marketing field that you might be interested in connecting with. I always recommend, when you do want to connect with somebody, I always recommend to add in a note saying a couple of words about who you are and why you're connecting with them, so that you're more likely to have them approve of your connection request. Facebook. So Facebook also with recent years has really become a tool here in Israel in the professional world. It might seem kind of funny, but there are a lot of different professional groups on Facebook and a lot of different ads for open positions that are being posted daily on different groups. You can also use Facebook to locate industry-specific groups. For example, if you're a dietitian, you might notice that on Facebook in Israel, there is a group for dietitians. It's a very, very large group, and that's the way the dietitians communicate here in Israel. You might find groups that are specifically for Olim, okay? And in those groups, you might be able to get more information about how to transfer your field over to here, or maybe get that support that you're looking for that you might not find in a specific field, specific group here in Israel. There's also groups that are by geographical location. So if you are in the north, per se, you might find some groups in the north that would be very relevant for you to find out about the field specifically in the north, or maybe in the future to see job openings that would be relevant for your location in the north. Studies and skills. So this is exactly the time to be looking about your skills, maybe considering upskilling or reskilling, depending on what you need, to be able to either transfer your job over, or perhaps you just start something completely new here in Israel. This is a time to identify what are your missing pieces, right? After you've looked at the job boards, if you've seen over and over again that you're noticing that in a job, you are required to know a specific tool, such as Excel, then you need to realize that you need to have Excel for that job. Maybe you're not really comfortable with Excel right now. So this would be a great time to go ahead and really learn an Excel course and really become fluent in Excel, so that when the time comes to apply for the jobs, you then have that skill and you're able to put it down on your resume and you're able to comfortably use the tool. This is also a time to be looking at demand skills, things that are in demand right now in the market. Obviously, what's in demand right now might not be in demand in a couple of months, but it is important to take a look at trends. It's also very important to use the time to close any gaps that you might see, like we talked about upskill, reskill. There might also be a language gap that you might have to close. So try to identify those as well. You can use free resources such as Udemy, Coursera, and other resources that are available out there. There's also resources for a charge, but I would first suggest to take a look to see what's free of charge, see what you can do, and then only if you feel that you need to turn to resources that maybe have a financial cost, then go ahead and turn to them. But oftentimes you can find very, very good resources, either free of charge or for a very minimal fee. There's also additional resources that are available to you pre-Aliyah. You can locate them on our website. These are Klita-based resources. It's important to know that when you make Aliyah, if you're an Oleh Chadash, Katin Chozer, Ezrach Oleh, whatever your status might be, as part of your services here in Israel post-Aliyah, you're going to be guided by a Misad Klita individual, a counselor, who can also help you address any employment issues. So in the Merkazei Klita, you might also find employment centers. You're also going to find information about professional ulpan. If you have to do a specific, more like a medical ulpan, for example, you can find resources through them. You might find that they have exam preparation reimbursement if you have to take an exam here in Israel to be certified or licensed in a specific field. You can also find that they have a voucher program, which is basically a program that helps you to learn a new trade, a new skill that is in demand. I would really encourage you to go ahead and look on our website and all the different resources that are available through Misad Klita that have to do with employment, and also other offices, to really get an idea of what the possibilities might be. Learning Hebrew. So learning Hebrew is really a critical tool. And really, the more Hebrew you have, obviously, the better off you're going to be once you make Aliyah. And the more easier it's going to become to feel comfortable in a workplace. Even if you're working in a high-tech company that communicates the majority of the time in English, it's still likely that when you're going to go into the kitchenette or in the dining room or out for lunch, you're going to want to have a conversation with your colleagues in Hebrew. So the more you can work on your Hebrew now, the better you are going to be when you get here. The other thing is that even if you do work again in a job that has the majority of the work in English, your payslip is going to be showing up in Hebrew. And there's going to be other terms that you're going to have to learn in your contract negotiation that really are all in Hebrew. So the more you can learn Hebrew, the better you are going to be. And obviously, it's going to be a long process. So now that you're abroad, before you're coming here, and you have a couple of hours here and there, I would strongly encourage you to really put your efforts on Hebrew learning as much as possible. There's different podcasts, there's radio shows that you can use, there are online applications that you can use, there are Upanim throughout North America, there's a program called Hebrew Connect that is available through Nefesh B'Nefesh, and I would just encourage you to reach out to your Aliyah advisor or to your advisor at the Aliyah engagement team and really ask them for the resources and questions that you have in order to be able to really progress with Hebrew learning. The next topic that we're going to focus on is budgeting. Budgeting is a really important tool when it comes to Aliyah, when it comes to employment planning, okay? Salary is just a part of the budget, and it's crucial that you know what your current budget is in the US or Canada so that you're able to see your future budget in Israel, so that you know what categories you're looking at, okay? You might also realize that as you explore employment in Israel, you might have to budget for professional consultations. For example, if you're going to be what we call an atzma'i, okay, an independent contractor here in Israel, you're going to have your own business, you might have to set aside funds in order to be talking to a U.S. CPA based here in Israel who can consult you on tax purposes. So all of these little items will have to go into your budgeting of your first year when you make Aliyah. There's also vocational training, government programs and subsidies that are important to look at, like I mentioned before, and those should also be taken into account in the budget. Putting together an Aliyah budget, like we talked about, I also just want to go ahead and refer you to a couple of resources on our website. We also have a budgeting sample tool for singles as well as couples as well as families. So I would suggest that you take a look at some of those tools. Sometimes we also have new platforms that are being posted and updated every day onto our website with regards to tools for budgeting. So I would encourage you to go ahead and take a look if you haven't done so yet. I want to have an open and honest check-in because lots of time people come to me in one-on-one conversations and they say, well, listen, I can make Aliyah if I have a job, or I'll move to Israel when I have that job lined up, or I must have a job in order to move. And really, in reality, it's very important to understand that most people do not make Aliyah with a job in hand. And that is for several reasons, really. But when you really understand that most people come without a job, that really helps you to set your expectations. And again, going back to the budget and going back to how would that first year look like and going back to the questions and thoughts that you had at the beginning. It's super important to understand this. So unless you're really coming with a job from abroad that you're bringing with you, or were able to secure a remote position before you made Aliyah, very, very little people come with a job in hand. How long does it take to find a job in Israel? It really depends. It could take 6 months. It could take 8 months. It's very important to realize that even for Israelis, sometimes it takes a long time to secure a job. So even more so, as an Oleh, the process can take a while. It also could be that you might land, get off the plane, meet the right person, and within a month, already be sitting in your new office and ready to work. It just all really depends on a bunch of different factors, but it's very important to realize that it does take time and that most people do not come with a job. Even if you did get a job before you came, nobody would promise you that if you got off the plane, you started to work, and after 3 months, you would still continue on with that job. What if something happened and you got let go? So it's very important to really plan for, am I making Aliyah because I have the inner desire to make Aliyah and I'll make it work? Or do I need more than that to pull me over to Israel? And so with that note, I just want to go ahead and mention that those people that are, let's say, happy, proactive, let's say successful, are the ones who first of all, keep an open mind. They're willing to sometimes take a different job, maybe a more junior position than what they have currently, because they want to make it work. They're flexible. Maybe they were looking originally for a job in Ramat Bet Shemesh, but now they're willing to look for a job in Tel Aviv. So it's really important to keep in mind that you have to be flexible. You have to come with an open mind. You have to be creative, and you have to really, really, really want to make it work. Having said all that, let's discuss the plan, because we discussed a lot of different things that you need to prepare for and that really you should focus your efforts on when you're 6+ months away from making Aliyah or from really being ready to start working. So first, we're going to talk about stocking the job boards, okay? At this point, you should be spending about 15 to 20 minutes a week looking at job boards, looking to see different trends, looking to further your research in the field in Israel and really identifying what's out there, okay? This is a time to reach out to people, to expand your network, to establish a presence on social media here in Israel. Even if you don't put out content all the time, but just really work on getting to expand your network and really getting the right connections. This is a time to be gathering paperwork. If you're in a specific field, you might have to transfer over a license or a certification. This is the time to start working on these documents, getting apostilles if needed, getting notarized translations as needed, and so forth. This is also the time to assess the budget. Like we spoke about, budgeting is key. Key. I can't stress it enough. Working on your Hebrew, like we said, now that you're in the comfort of your home, this is a great time to work on that. Take a time during the week, an hour or two, depending what you can do, and really focus your efforts on learning Hebrew. And also, don't forget to plan for the day after, because you're very, very focused now on Aliyah, on paperwork, on things that you need to do in order to get here. But it's super important to look at what the first year is going to look like after you get here, so that that can actually create your path for what it is that you need to focus on once you're here. If you do have any further questions, I do encourage you to reach out to us. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a pre-Aliyah employment advisor, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you feel that we maybe should have a one-on-one conversation, I'm happy to have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with you, and happy to, of course, answer any questions that you have through email. So just feel free to reach out. It's employment@nbn.org.il. I'll be happy to review your resumes. I'll be happy to get your questions, and really happy to move the conversation forward with you. So I really want to wish you best of luck with your Aliyah, best of luck with employment, and reach out to us if you have any further questions. Take care.